Welcome to Pondering Pandas. My name is Jaden.
My name is Ryan.
Hi Ryan, how is it going today?
I think I'm really excited about recording the content we're trying to record now, the AI.
Oh, is that our topic today? Topic is AI. What does AI stand for?
Based on my Google research, the AI stands for artificial intelligence, and it's a science of making the machines that can think like humans. So we are creating the machines to replace us, I guess.
Dang, that is some high-tech shit. Yeah, you can definitely AI has been taking over the world for the past 2, 3 years, right? And
Yeah.
by no means we are experts. We're just wanting to have a conversations like normal human beings and see how we feel about it each other. We're both, well, I think you're more of a nerd in terms of a tech perspective than I am. I do enjoy tech to a certain extent. I do have a background in certain technology stuff, but nothing near as AI. But yeah, what do you understand in terms of AI? What is AI to you?
That's a great question. For me, I'm more interested into how technology are shaping the human future and how they are shaping our life
Mm,
differently. So I've been paying attention to all the technology we have enjoyed so far. Like I remember when I was young, the internet was not that common as we do. And when you have a computer, it's even harder to have an internet. So we have to dial the home phone to connect to the internet, and we'll be really excited we find someone online to say hi and to have some typings over each other.
sorry. In in context, do you mean in when you were young, what era is this in terms of years so people might know? In the 90s?
I think it's
Okay.
1990 something.
Yeah, so we
Yeah,
had dial up.
it's before
Okay.
2000. Yeah. So I do remember at that era, nobody is relying on the internet. Nobody is thinking this is going to be changing the life like we think now. Because now I feel like everything is done
I
online.
can't.
Like we're relying on the phones and we are checking the social media. We are checking the news. We're absorbing all the information
Yeah.
online. That's not the case like 20 years ago or 30 years ago. That's completely different lifestyle. Now I see the AI. I'm thinking to myself, is this going to be an even bigger change? And I feel like I want to believe that. So that's something really exciting and at the same time it's terrifying as well because I feel like everyone will be like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen.
Let's get a little bit more specific then. How do you think it's going to shape our future, specifically in your perspective?
That's a good question. So what do you think? I'm actually curious about your ideas.
I think it's going to help in a grand scheme of scales. It's going to, aid with business, with ideas and creativity, potentially for those who just don't know how to start things, start businesses, or start doing certain processes, or even help with coding. And there's a lot of examples out there already that's within the e-commerce platforms that uses AI in generating content to a specific command that you're basically giving out, right? But what I
Yeah, yeah.
can also see is that let's not think 20 years. Let's just think maybe 5, or even just maybe at the end of beginning of 10 years, is that I can definitely see that all of this generation of AI is going to be a little bit, how do I say this? I think it's going to be a little bit, I don't know if boring is going to be one word. It's going to be it's gonna
Hmm.
be because there's big players right now, right? Google, OpenAI, and those are the big generative AI, and Apple is coming out. So all of these, if we think of AI as like it says, think like a human mind, and if each these companies have basically one gigantic AI each, right? So if all of these generations are coming from the specific AI, then like the type of creativityness, the business, the content is mostly just from those brains itself, right? So in terms of
Mm-hmm.
consistency, like yes, it's gonna create like great businesses down the future, great creativity, like aid for people, but I think the generation might become a little bit, it's like, oh, that looks like an Apple generation, or like that sounds more like a open AI one, or that's more like a Google one. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Let me see if I got it. So you're referring that if they are using different AI engines, you're going
Yeah.
to shape their mind, like regarding how they think and how they. Huh, that's really interesting. So in the end, do you think we are shaping the AI or AI is shaping us?
Right, for now, we are doing it because we're feeding information.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way I look at AI right now is like it's just like a little baby, right? Like we're basically nurturing how this brain, if you will, AI is going to perceive information and how it looks at things and how it should generate things. The way I look at it is like trying to nurture a brain that we don't really know much about,
We have
to
no
be
idea.
honest,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
we have no idea what this thing is capable of. So so it's very interesting in that perspective. And I'm going to think that there's going to be way more AI coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Way more, meaning a lot more people might create their own, which could be a good thing, and and it's just gonna continue going on for it, and like it will be a way for, I don't know. I also kind of think of it as like a potential working second brain instead of a
Mm-hmm.
like a dead second brain.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the way that we record information into like notes and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, like certain ideas that we
Ah, I
have
see what you
or like
mean.
things that we
Yeah.
want to note down, you can just put it into AI as like your own second brain that is actually working for you, and instead of working passively, it's going to work a little bit more
Yeah.
with
You,
you.
you're
Yeah.
thinking like the Iron Man's assistant, like basically like handling everything for you and remind you everything like you should be remember, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be within the realms of data that you're able to feed it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because Iron Man has like, all of this data that's able to feed towards it. But if you're, yeah, we're getting into technicalities, but in terms of the type of data you're going to be able to feed it is the type of potential AI you're going to nurture. So in a certain way, maybe that's just how I look at it. And that might not necessarily be correct, right? So it's just how I look.
That's great.
So back to the question, like in terms of for you, then what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like I share the same empathy as you do. I feel like the world is changing in a direction none of us will know regarding how it will work. And I do believe the most application you mentioned could be true that our next generations could be shaped by all those new contents and all the AI that's depends on how they use. So even though we are exposing to more information, we could be more isolated, or we could be more in a way that we are influenced by those AI instead of like being ourselves. But even though I don't know what being oneself means, but for me, like the AI interests me in a way in a longer term. So because I will not
Mm-hmm.
know if
Yeah.
it's going to shape us in short term, like how it's going to help us or destroy us. But in the long run, if we find a way to be able to co-living with AI, that we still maintain our human nature and we can still making conscious decisions as a human, no matter how we want to understand this. So let's assume that we find a way to co-living with AI. So I think that would be a huge opportunity for us as a human beings, that we would be potentially we will be entering an era that we don't have to live for resources, which means we can utilize the AI to create all the resources for us. And we can be truly first time in the human history to be able to see what we truly want as human beings if we don't have to worry about survivals.
I half agree with you, and the other half of me
Yeah.
does not agree with you
Yeah, yeah,
because
please, please.
so like for me, I agree. Like the best case scenario that AI is going to move towards the future for the sake of humanity's interest would be fantastic for us to coexist, for us to work together to like solve human problems.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the other side of me is also thinking if we're going back to the analogy of we're treating this AI as like a baby,
A baby,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And it's continually going to develop and grow up and like mature, if you will. Would it not have its own, you know, goals, aspirations,
Mm-hmm.
and for itself, right? Like
Yeah.
what what type of a person or I know that this is artificial, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like in the background it isn't able to think things. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that in the background it isn't able to have strategy or whatever. Um, you know, if if we're able to nurture this life form, if you will, to be in the best interest with coexistence of humans, great. If not, I think we're in big trouble. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because it could have its own ideas and its own aspirations and dreams and goals, right? That we would have absolutely no idea what the hell is what they're thinking or what they're actually doing in the background. And not to scare people, but I think it's just something that we need to be more aware of, at least. And it's just in a form that we need to make sure that it's working with us, it's working for us, and it sounds really selfish of humans, but like we created this to like benefit humans, yes, but at the same time, it's a potentially a very powerful tool that it can reach to a point where it's harder to manage at that perspective. But I think that because there's going to be so many different brains coming up, meaning AI,
Yeah.
um, that everybody might potentially make as like their own personal one or like big company ones or it's just gonna have like a different type of population in our
Yeah.
virtual slash like world like and then we're basically going to have AI in like a physical form in terms of like robots and stuff.
Mm-hmm. We are
And
heading to that direction now. Yeah.
we are heading to that direction, so like
Yeah.
you know you can keep AI in a digital form, but like once it becomes physical, like we have no idea what it's capable of doing in terms of like having its own mind, an ulterior motive. Like we don't know what it's thinking, just like the same as you don't know what your friends or the new
Mm-hmm.
people that you're meeting are thinking, what their goals might be. Um, in that sense, that's just
Yeah.
my perspective in that way. So in terms of like it will benefit us in humanity, but I think it's just ensuring that we tread really carefully and really lightly about the subject and the technology because like I don't know, I think we're just moving a little bit fast. Yeah, I don't know if there's a plug to pull, you know what I mean, like just to shut things down and but who's to say to like shut that thing down. But anyways, that's just me
Yeah.
going
I
off on a tangent.
That's totally understandable. I think I shared most of the empathy we have. Like we are, this could all be true. Like they could be like realizing that after they gain, or even though they're not there yet, to get their own full consciousness. At least what we believe so far is they are not there yet. But once they have this capability, yeah, this surely there's a possibility to feel like, oh, all the human beings are have no benefits for their existing, right? They're only stopping us from doing whatever we want to do, and why do we want to keep them in this world? And all they are doing is consuming the resources, and they could be potentially turning us into those life batteries, like what we have in the Matrix, right?
We're gonna become zoo animals.
Yeah, or we become zoo animals, whatever. So actually, I'm not sure if all the our audience will see the Matrix. So if you don't, I'm sorry for the spoiler. But there's an interpretation for the Matrix is that it's all AI's plan to keep human survival by creating the Matrix, because they need to have a bunch of people who are living in this fantasy world, and also they know not all of the people will satisfy with that, and some people will wake up and they cannot control that, and that's why they want to create this rebellion site as well. And they know that people want to have a hero, so they're creating this hero as well for human to have the hope to survive. And this goes on and on as a repetition that we are surviving as a human being in that situation.
It's a simulation. It's a
It's a
simulation.
simulation, so I'm not going to dig the details. I know like it's not a movie
No,
interpretation, but
I'm
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 just
totally
saying like,
kidding.
yeah, I'm just saying like you never know their intentions. You never know
Yeah.
like you said, you never know if they're going to be a good will or bad will. So they could be really bad. They want to wipe us entirely. Then I don't think we have an option in that time. We may never have. We have done so many things similar in the history. Like we have invented those new technologies, but also they're all leading to a more lethal weapons. Like we invented those machines, and then it turns into like machine guns, whatever. And then we invented this nuclear weapon, and we invented all those technologies that can destroy us. We're doing this. But also we see like every time we done this, we learn from the lessons in a way, and we're still surviving in a way that we I don't think anyone will predict that 200 years ago regarding like, oh, those people now like are using some magical like box and to communicate, they don't have to meet with each other face to face and all the things. So I do want to bring some optimistic part into this view, is that we never know, and we could be wiped out, but we could be living in a new era that nobody knows, and bring us new perspective and help us to understand more regarding who we are. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my thinking.
It's just interesting. Like it kind of leads this to our next question is like should we be worried or should we be like relieved that this technology is immersing, right? Like I think it's a little bit of both. Like right now it's more of I like how it's like both and the urgency of both seems to be quite equal, if not the worry is a little bit higher to some degree. Maybe it's just the content that I'm consuming is the people that are asking the questions of like they're staying more on the cautionary side and staying more on the
Mm-hmm.
warning side, whereas the people who are like, oh, we're never going to reach that point yet, like it's too like far into the future. But the way I look at it, like we're here, like we are in the future now. Like, you know, AI was the future, and like here we are. Like we're like it's here, right? Like those questions should be asked and should be potentially looked into a lot more depth, and we should have better answers on it now
Mm-hmm. I agree.
than later. I understand that it's very new technology. It's probably like almost impossible to look into that deep.
Mm-hmm.
But we have lots of theories, right? Like if we're just thinking about how human brains are developing, and you don't know like what what ticked them to do certain things that society that deems is not good. So that could be AI as well. But in let's just think about like the good parts of AI. Like it's good that we could potentially coexist with
Mm-hmm.
AI in terms of helping humans and to aid in humanity's dreams and
Mm-hmm.
aspirations
Yeah.
on a global scale or even in an individual personal scale. It will definitely help the economy to a point where we have never seen before. The access of AI is going to just continuously increase to the point where, like, right now, it's even harder to imagine. Like, there are a lot of places in the world have just started to have, I guess, like internet access and smartphones to a certain way, and but but like AI is basically like part of that evolution into those incorporation of smartphones already. So the people who are just having this internet access, they will have access to AI already.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these things are just kind of coming up all at once instead of like different parts of the world have access to the internet a little bit later. So everyone's using it in a very different way and to solve different problems, which is great. Like it's fantastic. I think my most excitement for AI is probably healthcare for myself, and I'm just looking into like how much benefit that healthcare will have through AI when it provens that it does work. And in a business perspective, it's just I don't know. In a business perspective, it's always very like gray area, and sometimes because money is involved.
Yeah.
That's just kind of my 2 cents on it. But in terms of like, what are you excited about for AI?
I agree with you. I feel like if we assume they would be coexisting with us, there would be enormous like potentials in our everyday life, right? It could reshape our life to a different way. But for me, what excites me most, it would be we can potentially have a new perspective to understand who we really are as a human beings, because we never have encounter with another being that's intellectual, that have the conscience to be able to communicate with us and tell us like, oh, you are this human species, and that's what you are and who you are in general, right? We never heard
But that's only if people think that AI is conscious, or if people think that AI is if their perspective is like AI is part of human beings, or AI is another species, or if they even think AI is a species, or if they just kind of treat it as like a technology. So it really depends on like how people kind of look at it in that perspective too before they can come to a conclusion about.
yeah, I agree. I will not say like everyone will believe AI is a new
Mm.
species or being. It all comes to you if you believe that or not, right? So it actually shows another example for me to shows the complexity of human beings and human nature, how we are being, like how we have always have doubts. We want to, or we want to prove we are unique in a way. I'm not saying everyone, but I think deep down, like, well, I think deep down, like most people want to say, like we are unique, we are irreplaceable. But once, if the situation changes, if there's some challenges you're facing, you see like, oh, maybe this new machine can replace me easily. Will you have some like questions about like this word, or will you be thinking deeply regarding who I really, who really I am, what's the value I'm providing, or should I really care about what value I'm providing to this world? And as I said in the beginning, I'm really excited to see like in a real sense, like of course, it's only a possibility. But if it happens, if let's assume like AI is really super nice to us and it's generating so many resources that can sustain us in a way that we don't have to work or to worry about survival, who we really are in that situation? What would be our dreams and goals, and what would be our motivations? Are we still be into the competition? But for me, the competition is more like I want to prove I'm better to you because I want to survive. I want to own more resources. But we all know like the resources can only, well, it's not a truth or common sense, whatever. But many people would say that the money is the thing that reduce your unhappiness, but not to improve your happiness. So which means like the money can help you to remove all those suffering from the life. It can give you the good foundation of the living, like the food, like the material, like the sleep, whatever. Like you can go anywhere, anytime. You have all the freedom, but it doesn't give you happiness directly. That's why we see many rich people are not happy either, because it's not the solution of life. At least for me. So I'm really wondering. So back to my point here, I'm really wondering if all of us are facing this situation that we don't have to worry about money or resources in the first place, at least, what we truly want.
I think that's what's going to separate the population a bit, right? I think we already kind of see that in a certain aspect, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it might separate us even more with the
Yeah.
technology that might potentially go into the direction of what you're talking about. Is like, if this thing is already gonna make me have a very comfortable life, like I don't necessarily want to do anything, which it can be true, but there's going to be people who aren't like that. There's going to be people who are like that, and then there's going to be people who don't even think AI still exists or anything, right? So like I think there's going to be a spectrum of what these people might how these people might respond to it. And you're right, like some people might not want to do very much because they already have, the money and the resources to come in, but that money and resources will eventually go somewhere and do something, to like either next generation or something like that. But I don't think it's going to apply for everybody. I think it's just going to apply for a certain percentage of people who who's either willing to just like, chill and relax. I think it's the same as like, even if we take AI out of the question, for those who have made a certain amount of money um to just like, okay, I think this is like a good enough income that I can feel like I'm comfortable living, to I want to make more. There's like a variability of those type of people, right?
Yeah, I think totally makes sense. I just wonder how people would behave. Although I do believe that human nature will stay the same because we are, what I believe is that our biology is shaped like, I don't know, 20,000 years ago, and we're behaving the same. We are always detecting more regarding the potential threats, instead of the, because we are always worried about like if something bad happens and how do we survive, right? Deep down we are like animals, we want to be survival. So that's why I'm curious if we have, well, like, of course we need to worry about if someone will have this technology as a their own privilege and to control other population and stuff. So that would be one worry we have. But let's assume that if AI benefits everyone and give everyone all the resources they want to accomplish their dreams in life, that situation would be really curious to me to see like what we are as a human being.
I think that's also a little bit on the spectrum too. Like, do you think like AI is a life form? I think we kind of touched based on this in the beginning.
Well, if we agree that they are a life form, considering like they can be learning, they can be generating their own responses, and they can be making their own decisions. We can, but some people will always doubt it because they say, "Oh, we feed all the information to them. We design the algorithm, we design their structure in the first place." Even though we're not controlling regarding how they generate the responses, because from my knowledge so far, I believe the process of how they generate those answers are a black box. Deep down, like no one knows how it actually works in the first place. So if so, I know some people will have doubts regarding how do we define them as a life form if we design everything and we feed them everything. But it would create the question for me regarding how do we determine ourselves as life form, human beings. Like we definitely didn't design our own like biological structures, but we feed ourselves with all the information, and we have this social system to tell us what to do and shape all the standards. We have the parenting environments that's leading us to living in the same society.
Yeah, because it's really interesting that you mentioned human biology, because like the way that it's designed for the AI brain is basically using the human brain to design AI, right?
Yeah,
In terms of the connections, the neurons,
yeah.
the everything. There was a really interesting book that I came across. It's called Life 3.0, and or was it one of the content podcasts or YouTube that was mentioned this? Like if an alien decided to come down to Earth and try and determine if, humans are a life form, like as a third person perspective, like he wouldn't know like what consciousness means. Like he would think that he
Yeah,
has consciousness because, he
yeah.
can think, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he can see like the way that we are being destructive to ourselves with our own kind and all that stuff and resources. So like maybe to
Mm-hmm.
them like we don't have a conscious about these things. So, if we want to cut it down to biologies, we're just kind of basically made up of neurons and like tissues that we want to call it as consciousness, right? It's just an interconnected link firing neurons to make us feel like we are conscious. And what difference does that make in terms of the AIs that we have designed that actually is designed to work like a human brain in just a very massive way?
Yeah, just to echo to a point that we never know. Like, how do we define ourselves as a human being and also consciously making our own decisions? Because there many theories are claiming, at least in the philosophy field, that claiming people don't have the free will. We're like the machine in a way that's is very predictable. And even though we are looking into other theories, like there's a theory in the philosophy saying like we never know if other people exists. There can be different points to question, right? So the first would be like, how do we know like if the world is not only imagination of our own mind? That's because we are creating all those imageries and the voices, the perceptions of the world from our brain with all the chemistry and all the whatever, right? So there's a theory like it can be only it's basically like what Matrix is. Like we can have a brain and we're only receiving the stimulus and there's no outside world exists. Also, there could be another theory saying like, how do we know if other people are robots?
Yeah, nothing. We don't know anything. I guess that's the point of this podcast.
And also, I don't know what's the definition of life.
Oh god, that is a different topic for a different time.
I know, but someone's claiming the Earth itself is a life form because it has its own like system, it's
Yeah.
changing and it's evolving, and it's basically the Gaia theory that's claiming
Mm-hmm.
that the Earth and the other like the universe is a form of life in a way.
Yeah, it's like a big ecosystem, right?
Sometimes I just don't know if anyone have the answer or they would be certain. But I really enjoy those moments when I realize, oh, now we have another possibility that AI could be telling us who we are. So it can give us more new perspectives.
I don't necessarily agree that AI is going to tell us these things, but I think it's just
Okay.
I think AI is going to provide certain answers that we haven't been able to see in a different perspective that AI was able to see, and that might help us like come up with certain conclusions or solutions towards other problems. There are bigger like humanity problems that's currently in the question, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's, for example, like space travel. There's human beings being in space and stuff like that. Like those are like one of the bigger questions of like how do we do it? Um, where AI could potentially be one of those that can help or either destroy us. But yeah, that's a for me, I think it just makes sense to try to be aware of this exciting technology and at the same time very worrisome yet caution technology that is coming up to the point where like we just don't. The theme is like don't know, right? That is literally what it is. Like I hate to leave it at this, but at the end of the day, I think I would like to be a little bit more optimistic to this technology
Mm-hmm.
because I would like to think humanity is good, and I would like to think humanity is it has like many sides of the coin. So I think if we're the ones who's creating this brain, the way that I kind of analogized it as like we're being able to nurture it the way that we want it, then at the end of the day, we're going to have very different types of AIs that are able to do good, bad things in very different perspectives. So that's just my personal opinion right now. It might change in the future, so who knows?
So who will be the survivors, do you think?
In the long term,
In the short term, we know like there's many jobs going to be replaced and there will be like new form of the business or lifestyle emerging. That's what I believe because I believe that it will be something like industrial revolution.
I think to be very like honest, I would like, humans to continually survive as long as possible with coexistence of AI. But if the worst case scenario does happen, like if you think about it, AI doesn't need us.
You never know.
Why? Like at a certain point, AI does not necessarily need humans because like their type of like the way that in terms of longevity, like one AI can outlive the entire humanity as long as there is some sort of way for it to sustain itself, right? For us, like we're going to eventually die. Like, have a
Mm-hmm.
lifespan of 80 to like potentially moving towards 100, but our biology doesn't allow that unless we want to replace ourselves into some sort of biohacking slash health thing
Mm-hmm.
to continue to live or something like that. But in terms of in like worst case scenario, it would be AI just doesn't necessarily need us to for it to survive. I think getting into this subject has gotten me more questions in terms of being more worried about it, but there's nothing I can do about it. I just want to. It's good to like address it and have the conversation and let people be aware. And if there are certain things that's
Yeah.
popping up in the future that is worrisome, especially in like policies that should vamp up to help protect this technology in terms of protecting humanity, like that's something that we definitely need to potentially think about and have a voice as like a general population. So, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. So I do agree with you on all the possibility of like this bad future, because I'm not naive to believe that everyone would be, everyone would be like hugging each other to say, oh, AI will be the future, and AI would be like, oh, we love you, human beings, and we want to hug you. And it was,
Sunshine and rainbows.
yeah, like sunshine. That's not something I want to promote here. I really want to say that
This is
definitely
not a happy podcast.
yeah, it's like, but I want to be optimistic. I want to have a reason to be optimistic. But I do believe in the short term, all the human beings will like related will try our best to, look into the problem to see how we can coexist, how we can bring AI to the best benefits for us and help us to solve our problems in general. I'm pretty sure all the people will be focusing on the policies, the regulations, and also to examine those ethical like situations to make sure that to put the best efforts. I do believe the best efforts will be put. But I just want to say, in the long run, if something out of control, if we are in the situation that I feel like, oh, we cannot control AI entirely, they become so powerful that in the situation that you highlighted, that they don't necessarily need us. But it actually brings me the wonder, because I want to be, I think I'm being cynical enough. I want to be optimistic for a while.
Okay, no, that's good. Somebody needs to be.
Yeah, I want to provide this like colorful rainbow like to shine us for a little while, that you never know regarding their purposes, right? You never know what we want. Like sometimes we see some serial killers, human being, but sometimes you can see this person will help some people randomly, right? You never know. Like there's something we don't understand each other. From a logical point of view, it's definitely, if we don't need something, that thing is replaceable, which means, and I do believe that could be happening, is that we human beings will lose all the sense of security, that we are no longer in control. I think this feeling itself is most scary things for most people. That we won't have things in control from our biology, that we want to say like, oh, we know we are safe. We know we are in control. But imagine like if things will work out.
Yeah.
like we don't need certain species in the world to exist, even though we are saying like we want to have this ecosystem to have, but sometimes we don't care, we're destroying everything. But deep down we do love nature in a way that we want to preserve something, we want to see beautiful things, we want to see colorful things from time to time, we want to explore why we have empathies. But at the same time, we know we can be really bad as a human beings, right? So we're mysteries. So I think we can have the same ideology or same ideas towards other species if we believe AI becomes of a species. So maybe they think it's good to pet us, or maybe they think they have a bigger mission to help us to understand who we are, or they just want to reserve us as a database they can reassess at any time if they want to evolve themselves, right? So you never know, because we create them in a way that we feed them the information and all the data, and saying like, hey, this is who we are. This is our human being, and you have become our creations.
We just need to baby it better. We just need to nurture it better. We just need to make sure like we're feeding the information like that is, I don't know, what we deem as correct or what we deem as right, which is like really dangerous, right? Like what person A versus person B might think is good is very different to certain ideologies and perspectives. So I think we can just leave it at that in terms of, allowing the pondering to continue. Do you think we did it for this episode?
I think we definitely did. Maybe we're sharing too much. But I really want to add one last thing, is that it's my bias, it's my own bias. I do believe the most evil people in the history most of them have the biggest and purest hopes and ideologies.
Interesting.
Like they must believe they're doing something right.
Yeah.
They must be believing they're delivering something bigger themselves or creating a bigger value for all the people. or they're just
Yeah.
trying to prove they're right, right? They must be believing they're right. I don't believe anyone would say like, "Oh, I must be wrong, but I want to destroy
Keep
everyone."
doing this. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I never thought about that.
Yeah, so in this case, I never know, or we never know our intentions, and we will never know what's AI's intentions. So that's how I want to leave that.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us, everybody, with Pondering Pandas. See you. Bye.
See you. Bye.